Greetings and welcome to another edition of 15 Minutes of Flame. I'm Robert Phoenix, and I've been away for a while. I've been traveling. Long road trip, 3,000 miles. But let's get to it. The last transmission we had was on Sunday night. I did the live stream, and I was extremely tired and in a kind of a burnt out place. And I tried to make a funny comment or remark on Jill Stein and her efforts here to turn the tide and recount the votes, especially in favor of Hillary Clinton. And I made an unfortunate comment about her neck, which it was completely wrong. So I wanted to just, if you haven't been on Facebook where I addressed this, let me just address it now. I apologize for the remark. I was trying, not everybody can be funny all the time and hit the right mark. Just ask Sarah Silverman, where she told everybody that if Jesus was back here again, she'd fucking kill him right now. So not everybody can be funny all the time. And every now and then we cross a line. If we cross a line, which I think I did actually, we have to address it. And this is my public mea culpa apology. And it was good. It was good for me to be able to kind of get there and see, where the boundaries are. And there it is. There it is. So anyway, Jill Stein, I apologize. If I offend anybody else, I apologize as well. Now, if I made fun of Alex Jones's neck, I'm sure people wouldn't have a problem with that because, it's just, it's just whose neck you make an issue of. But, we should all be much more conscious and aware of one another's body images. So that said, let's get into today's show. I don't have a lot of time. We got 15 minutes to burn. Quickly, on the Trump side of things, he's dancing with Mitt Romney. They had dinner last night. They had lamb, they had frog legs, they had a bunch of other goodies that they dined on together. So this is for people that have seen Trump as this savior who is going to come in and be this shining knight that's going to overturn every wrong of the last 20th century, the 20th century, latter part of the 20th century and the 21st century, and hire people to drain the swamp. This could be construed as, a bad move. It's certainly a puzzling move, but at the same time, if I'm Trump, you want to keep your friends close and maybe your enemies closer. And by having Mitt Romney as Secretary of State and kind of prying him away from the Mormon Mafia, maybe this is actually a good strategy. I don't know. These two could not be more opposed politically. Romney is he's a dump and pump guy. He is a globalist. He was for the TPP. Trump, anti-globalist, nationalist. I mean, in a lot of ways, this kind of encapsulates Trump. Now, he's not the Secretary of State yet, but I would not be surprised if he was. And in a weird way, Trump is on top of him. And here's Romney, who was coming at him and calling him a con man and a thief and using some pretty strong language. Trump is now on top. It's a very interesting kind of move. I don't like Mitt Romney. I never liked Mitt Romney. I don't like what his politics stand for. But at the very least, it's an interesting gambit on Trump's part. So there's a lot going on. Stein's recount is meeting some resistance. David Brock, he of the connection to James Alefantis, a.k.a. Pizzagate, he has come out and said, this is a guy deep in Hillary Clinton's world as far as her campaign and the Clinton Foundation, and David Brock is an essential player. He's come out and said we should move on. He's not supporting the recounts. Apparently Obama's not supporting this recount. So this is a very odd move. It's a very strange, very odd move, and not completely understanding why, except for the fact that they can somehow possibly delay the recount long enough. And I think they're targeting Wisconsin, who would probably take the longest in terms of the recount, and try to run this thing into the deadline for the Electoral College, which coincidentally happens at the same time as Mercury retrograde. So there could be this attempt to forestall the actual process in the election here for President-elect Trump. But she's not getting a lot of support. Even the Green Party is beginning to rebel against Stein. This is kind of amazing in a lot of ways. So we're seeing this such a fascinating time politically, and watching sort of people get exposed and their layers get exposed. And it's not just politics. I mean, we are in the exposition of life right now for the individual in general. So this is from Zero Hedge. I'll just read this for you real quickly, and I'll just read the first couple paragraphs. Green Party rebels against Jill Stein. We do not support the recount. In a letter penned by Green Party Senate candidate Margaret Flowers and signed by dozens of prominent GPUS members, the Greens have rebelled against the farcical recount effort conducted by Jill Stein, saying, while we support electoral reforms, including how the vote is counted, we do not support the current recount being undertaken by Jill Stein. The reason for this is that, as the author notes, as a candidate, Dr. Stein has the right to call for a recount. However, we urge the GPUS to distance itself from any appearance of support for either Democrats or Republicans. We are well aware of the undemocratic actions taken during the primaries by the DNC and the Clinton campaign. Greens cannot be perceived to be allied with such a party. So the Greens, the people that are the bedrock and the foundation for Jill Stein, the woman who represents their party, their ideology, their goals, they're distancing themselves from her. This is really kind of political suicide. I mean, what is Jill Stein going to do after this? Is she going to become a Democrat? Will she go back to being a doctor? Flowers points out that the decision to pursue a recount was not made in a democratic or a strategic way, nor did it respect the established decision-making processes and structures of the Green Party of the United States, GPUS. The recount has created confusion about the relationship between the Green and Democratic parties, because the states chosen for the recount are only states in which Hillary Clinton lost. There were close races in other states such as New Hampshire and Minnesota where Clinton won, but which were not part of the recount. And this recount does not address the disenfranchisement of voters. It recounts votes that were already counted rather than restoring the suffrage of voters who were prevented from voting. So that's the Green Party's statements. So they are distancing themselves from. What does Jill Stein do from this point forward? I mean, this is not a great move on her part. It's clearly being driven as part of a multi-pronged approach to somehow forestall the electoral process for Trump. This is fascinating, absolutely fascinating, and it seems like it's starting to run aground. The recount effort is looking like it's beached. Now, what Trump has done, which has, again, stirred the ire of many, including Newt Gingrich, is that Trump has said publicly through his tweets that there is massive voter fraud with illegals. And this is Trump's, Twitter persona coming out and throwing down. And the reason he's doing this is because he wants to get out ahead of any kind of perceived conflict in terms of the vote. So if there's going to be a recount, if there's going to be some form of foul play, some kind of strange reformatting of the votes in the tabulation, he wants to be on the public record that something else was going on at the same time. Now, I get where he's coming from. He's just trying to get out in front of this thing and make a case for some other indiscretion in terms of voting. Now, is this something that a president theoretically does? I don't think so, but we have not seen somebody like Trump in the White House or in Trump Tower, which is going to be the White House East. So this is very interesting in terms of the dynamics of what's taking place, what's taking shape, and just watching people kind of just, run their cars into the side of the road, just like Jill Stein's, kind of amazing. OPEC announced today that they're cutting back on oil production. Now, if you followed what's been happening with oil over the course of the last 3 years, there was a glut of oil on the market, which has kept prices down low. Much of this was done to neutralize the American production of oil. And I live in a state where there is a ton of oil business, the oil economy. It's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate that we had to go into this area where we're doing the shale drilling and we're fracking the land and fracking the water in order to pull out the shale oil. I think it's terrible. I think it's ruined sort of the middle part of the country. Now we're Oklahoma City and Tulsa are having earthquakes because everything's been destabilized. But this is what happens when the economy begins to run aground, because the globalists and the corporations have moved everything offshore. What's left? You look around. What are the resources? Where are you going to get the most bang for the buck? It's oil. So what happened was that OPEC said, okay, we're going to have an economic war with you. We're going to overproduce, and we're going to take it. We're going to take a hit in the short term. And but what it's going to do to your economy, America, is going to paralyze your oil production, your oil states like Texas, Alaska, Louisiana, Alabama, all throughout the South and the Southwest, parts of New Mexico. So there's a war going on. Now, Trump is president, or will be, and all of a sudden OPEC says, they all agreed. Now, getting OPEC to agree on something is really something. It's really something because they normally don't do that. Hey, I'm running out of time today. It's 15 minutes of flame. I'm going to be back tomorrow, and I promise I'm going to be talking about Standing Rock. I'm going to talk about that at the beginning of the show. I have some inside scoops on the Standing Rock issue, which you have to hear. It brings a whole new light to what's going on up in that area. So please join me tomorrow, 15 minutes of flame. We're back on track every single day. I'm Robert Phoenix. Yay.
When you don't go to Geico.com, car insurance can be hard. Like early 90s heavy metal hard.
I'm yelling and screaming and I'm loud. Roar!
Geico makes it easy. You can review and update your policy or report a claim on Geico.com or the Geico mobile app. Because shouldn't we all have a little less stress in our lives?
I'm not even upset about anything!
It can happen to anyone. You're about to hit channel 81 to watch Animals Gone Loco, but you accidentally hit 811 instead. And just like that, you're watching the turnip growing marathon on the Farmers Network. And you're thinking, am I paying for this channel? Oh yes, you are. Thankfully, with Amazon Channels, you pay only for channels you want to watch, including premium ones like Showtime and Stars. No cable required. So goodbye, Farmers Network, and hello, Amazon Channels.